Does death inspire you?
Death?
Yeah.
That's a hard question to answer. I don't know. I mean, I think a thought-provoking subject. Mystery part of it, the mysterious part of it is an interesting concept and a lot of people think they sort of have knowledge of what it is, what it means. A lot of people, billions of people that have beliefs in what it means. And for me, it's incredible that there is this phenomenon that happens to millions of people every day. It's going to happen to all of us without fail. And through the history of, like, at least recorded history of human beings, billions of people have been born and died, and there have been geniuses that have lived from every culture and every part of the world. And not one time has anyone been able to come up with any kind of substantial proof about what happens to us after our bodies die. That's kind of an incredible thing to me. It's kind of, it brings a pessimist out of me, which says, if no one's been able to come up with any real concrete scientific evidence that there is life after death or whatever that might be, then it's pretty conclusive that there probably isn't. And then there's another side of me that just intrinsically doesn't believe that that is possible, that we're sort of people with the neurons firing, and when our heart stops, that's it. So I suppose in terms of it being thought-provoking and interesting, that it can be inspiring in terms of writing lyrics. It's a very mysterious thing.
Chris Cornell's thoughts on death. Very, very thought-provoking. And he's right. We have had geniuses pop up in many different cultures all over the world. No one's ever come to any conclusive proof that there is such a thing as life after death or reincarnation or, a heaven, a hell. I guess it's all just based off faith. Now, I do believe that Albert Einstein gave us a clue when he figured out that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. All the energy there's ever been, there ever will be, is here, and you can't get rid of it, and you can't make new energy. Now, that's a very thought-provoking comment, because after all, we are made up of energy. Where does it go? And is energy the same thing as a spirit, as a soul? I don't think so. I don't think we know what the spirit is or what the soul is. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the American SpyFox. Welcome to the channel. In this video, we will be going over the complete timeline of Christopher Cornell's death. Well, first we're going to talk about his last concert at the Fox Theater in Detroit. Then we will go through the timeline of his last few hours on this earth. And as always, I will be speculating, I will be throwing opinion out there, and I want your feedback. A couple quick announcements. First, let me give a big shout out to longtime patron Kosar Bishop, Let It Bleed Adam, Trisha Levingston, and Barbara Kane. Be giving some more shout outs in future videos. Thank you guys so much. I know you've been around a long time, supported the channel a long time, and I really appreciate you, as I do all of you. Chris Cornell's death is something that's been on my mind for a very long time. I will tell you now, I'm on the fence. Most people believe, yes, indeed, he did take his own life, and we will discuss the details that suggest he must have taken his own life. But I also have a bunch of details I want to talk about that suggest something funny may have been going on, and I believe there is more to his story than what has been told. I believe that there is something being held back by Martin Kirsten, the bodyguard, and by Vicky. I don't even know her last name now. She's already switched her name from Vicky Cornell back to her maiden name, if that tells you anything. She wants to own Soundgarden. She's in control of Chris Cornell's estate, but doesn't even care to take his name. I'm pretty sure she's already getting remarried. I know she's already in another relationship, but that's not why I've made this video. It's not to hate on Vicky or just be mad at her. There are very real details that do not add up in the timeline. We will discuss them, well, now. On May 17th, 2017, Soundgarden is coming to an end of their reunion tour, and they're doing theaters. They're not doing big sold-out amphitheaters and stadiums like the Foo Fighters. It's kind of like their first hoorah back into Soundgarden, so they wanted to make sure that they were going to sell tickets. May 17, 2017, they sold out the Fox Theater in Detroit, 5,174 tickets. They were just trying to take it easy. This is how it works with bands. If you're not that well known and you need to build a fan base, you tour the clubs, the bars. You go go around your state from the major cities to the small towns and play in every dive bar you can find, every punk rock club, wherever you can get a gig, you do it. Then once you build your fan base, you start going to the theaters, the 2, 3, 4, 5,000 seat theaters. If you can sell those out, then you know you're ready for the next big step. Honestly, because Soundgarden had already been so famous and they had so much credibility, I don't think they were really concerned about selling 20,000 tickets. I think they were just kind of having fun with it and getting used to playing together again. I read different articles that told me different things, and this was the first clue that I had that something was being hidden by the press, by the major press. You have some articles that say Chris Cornell did a fantastic job. He sung great through his 4 octave levels. It was awesome. They put on a great show. They talked about how much they loved being in Detroit. It was their favorite city to play in. The Detroit crowd was so great. And then you had other articles that were like Chris was slurring his words. He was forgetting his own lyrics. He stumbled off stage, and the band had to kind of fill it with instrumentals while Chris stumbles back on stage, and he sort of ranted a couple times. So I thought, you know what, instead of trusting these articles, I'm just going to watch the whole damn show. Luckily, it was on YouTube, and I watched the whole Fox Theater show, and I have to tell you, the latter was correct. There were plenty of times that Chris looked like a broken man. He looked tired. Sometimes he looked confused. There were points in time where it almost felt as though he was holding himself up with the microphone stand, like the dude had been drugged or something. He did forget lyrics. He did confuse verses, like he would skip a verse and go into the next verse. It was kind of back and forth. There were times that he seemed like he was having a great time and he's jamming on his guitar and he's really into it. And then there were other times that looked like he was just a broken man trying to do his job, just trying to get through the day so he could go home. From what I read and then what I watched and witnessed with my own eyes, the Detroit Free Press got it right. He, meaning Chris Cornell, missed words, sometimes in entire blocks, letting the crowd sing the parts of the songs he didn't. Nobody complained. In fact, the audience of about 5,000 seemed to love it. Cornell was visibly agitated at times. He walked off the stage for several minutes before playing Been Away Too Long, causing the band to start over, leaving them to play instrumentals to fill the gap. He made a move it along motion with his hand. This is pretty interesting. The author of this article is talking about Chris's 4-octave range, what he is known for, his versatile rock voice. At the time, I chalked it up to being late in the tour, thinking that his voice might be shot. Maybe he was exhausted. After all, Cornell, who was known for his 4-octave vocal range and having one of the most versatile voices in rock and roll, would spend the majority of his time screaming into the mic. So the author is saying, all these mistakes he was making, all the cracking and the stopping and letting the crowd sing. I thought he was just exhausted from the tour and his voice was shot. Here's the first clue to me that Chris may have in fact been thinking about taking his own life. He did say to this crowd, and I watched it myself,
"We do a song about it. It's sort of about tolerance, provided that nobody tells me what to do. Nobody tells us what to do. Anyone can do whatever they want. I don't care what it is. Including you can fucking burn crosses on your lawn. I don't give a shit. You can burn your house down. Who cares? I don't. As long as it doesn't catch someone else's house on fire. This is called My Wave."
Now, what Chris was saying was, I don't care what anyone does. And he was referring to the song that he had written in his young life called My Wave. Keep it off my wave. You guys remember this. He was explaining that the song meant, I don't care what anybody does as long as it doesn't hurt someone else. You can believe whatever you want to believe. You want to pray. You want to chant and burn incense. Whatever you do it as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. If, in fact, Chris was thinking ahead and he really was going to do this to himself, I think he was hinting to people that I'm not going to hurt you, I'm going to hurt me. And I can do what I want to do, you do what you want to do. But that doesn't make much sense, does it? And Chris Cornell was a very sensible person. He had a lot of common sense. He wasn't just intelligent, he wasn't just book smart because he read a lot. He had a lot of common sense, which goes a long way. Chris had to have known that that statement was contradictory because he would be hurting people. He'd be hurting his kids, his wife, his family, his fans, his bandmates. He'd be hurting everybody. people, of course, the PC politically correct crowd, they always spin things into something controversial and dramatic that they can bitch about. Of course, they took it as like, oh my God, Chris Cornell is saying that the KKK can burn crosses and he doesn't mind. No, what he was saying was that doesn't affect me and it shouldn't affect you. It's silly. And when kids do silly things, you should ignore them. That's what he was saying. Oh no, they're burning crosses in their yard. Who gives a shit? They're a bunch of idiots. Ignore them. That's what he was saying. Let the boys do boy things and let men do men things. Perhaps the second troubling clue was this. Chris has the upper balcony stand up, and then he gets the front rows to cheer for the upper balcony. He's acknowledging all of his fans. He's letting them know, I don't care if you bought a cheap ticket or you bought the most expensive ticket. I care about all of you. I'm happy that all of you are here for this concert. And he dotes on Detroit. Detroit Rock City. He says it's one of his favorite places, that the crowds are always unparalleled to any other place. But this is disturbing. I watched the full concert. He did indeed say this. One line, which at the time seemed innocuous, sticks. Chris said, I feel bad for the next city. Cornell said this over the mic. The quote came just after mentioning that nothing could ever top Detroit. Now it has a much deeper, heartbreaking meaning. And yes, because he inevitably died in Detroit, of course it has much deeper meaning. Did he really mean it like that? That's the question. We'll never know. Did Chris say that? I feel sorry for the next city because I'm not even going to make it to the next city. Or because Soundgarden was coming up to the end of their tour. Matter of fact, I think the next city may have been the last stop. Was Chris Cornell saying, I'm so tired, I'm so worn out, this is the end of the tour, my voice is shot, I barely got through this show, I feel sorry for the next city because I know I'm going to perform horribly. That's one of those things. We'll never know what he exactly meant by that. Clue number 3, at the concert, the end of the concert, the encore, Soundgarden decides to play a couple more songs. Not knowing the gig would be their last, together the band ended their set with an encore of Rusty Cage and Slaves and Bulldozers, both from the seminal 1991 album Bad Motorfinger. The latter is chilling to listen to as Cornell includes a few lines from the gospel song In My Time of Dying, later made famous by Led Zeppelin. Well, 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 so I can die easy. Jesus going to make up my dying bed. Did Chris finish this show like that, with that verse, those words, which he included? It was sort of a fusion of Slaves and Bulldozers and In My Time of Dying. He includes those words in his very last show at the very end. Did he do that as a goodbye? And he played his heart out, man. At the end, like, he's on the guitar wailing and he's really giving it his best. I could see how that could be interpreted as that's his goodbye. He's saying goodbye. But it was an encore. Soundgarden didn't know the audience was going to want an encore, or maybe they did. Maybe they expected it. Encores are never a for sure thing. If the audience is really into it and they're like, come on, give us more, then yeah, they might play another song or two. But that doesn't always happen. So it doesn't seem like it was something he could have planned. Then again, he did say that Detroit had unparalleled audiences, that they always welcomed Soundgarden with open arms. Maybe he expected an encore. Once again, we will never know. Now we begin our timeline. The show ends around 11 p.m. May 17th. So we're going from May 17th past midnight into the wee hours of May 18th. At 11 p.m., the show ends. The band goes and they sort of thank the fans, sign a few autographs. A Detroit-based photographer who walked past Cornell after the show said he did not think anything abnormal in regard to his demeanor. The band thanked a few fans waiting for autographs and got into the vehicle, he said. Here's where our timeline begins. At 11 p.m., we have Chris Cornell and his bodyguard, Martin Kirsten, leaving the Fox Theater. As you can see, there are two different routes you can go to get to the MGM Grand Hotel in Detroit. One is 0.7 of a mile, one is 0.8 of a mile, one takes 4 minutes, one takes 5 minutes. And they have a police escort. And no, they did not stop at Foxtown Liquor. They would have just went straight to the MGM, probably got there about 2 to 3 minutes with the police escort. Now, there were some fans, not many, but some who knew that Chris was going to be staying at the MGM Grand Hotel. Word gets out. People have friends who work there, right? So there are fans waiting near the lobby in the entrance, and Chris decides to stop and chit-chat and sign autographs. Chris Cornell typically would do this. He would typically engage with his fans, but there had been times when he was very tired or in a bad mood or maybe even depressed that he would avoid fans. And if he wanted to avoid those fans, there were any number of other entrances around the back that he could have been taken to. He walks straight through the front freaking entrance. He knows fans are going to be there. He's willing to sign these autographs and chit chat for 5 to 7 minutes. Then him and his bodyguard, Martin Kirsten, head up to the 11th floor to Chris's hotel suite. It's around 11:15, 11:20, and Martin Kirsten, the bodyguard, this is what he says in his official police report, he gave Chris Cornell 2 prescribed sleeping pills. Not only sleeping pills, but they were prescribed for anxiety. Now, I could not find any mention of exactly what these pills were. Of course, there is a Vicky, whatever her last name is, interview where she talks about the different drugs that Chris was on.
I don't think that he could make any decisions because of the level of impairment.
We do know that it is prescription. I can take regular over-the-counter sleeping pills and boom, it knocks me out. So I'm imagining that if it's prescription, it's probably pretty potent. Martin claims he gives these 2 pills to Chris. He gives them to Chris, and then he leaves Chris's room and goes to his own room to watch TV 2 doors down. Only a few minutes later, 5 to 10 minutes later, at 11:30 p.m., Cornell calls over to Kirsten's hotel room. Kirsten says he was laying on the bed watching TV, and Cornell says he does not have a remote for his Apple TV. Now, this is very strange. This is the MGM Grand Hotel. He cannot find the remote to control his Apple TV. And Cornell, he's tired, he's exhausted, he just played a 2-hour show. He doesn't want to deal with it. His bodyguard is also his personal assistant. That's what he pays him for. And he tells Kirsten to arrange for a remote to be brought to his room. Kirsten claims that he did so. He called down to the operator, told them that a hotel staff member needed to bring a remote to Chris Cornell's room. Remember this detail. It's going to come up later. Five minutes later, 11:35 p.m. So Chris has hung up the phone. He's got a TV remote on the way. He decides to do what any husband would do before they lay down to relax and go to bed. He calls his wife. Vicky, what's her maiden name? Vicky would later describe him as sounding very groggy and repeating, "I'm just tired. I'm just tired." Why Vicky thought that this was so abnormal, I'm unsure. The guy was on tour, which is exhausting. Traveling alone is exhausting. He just played a 2-hour show, which is exhausting. And he just took 2 prescription sleeping pills. But she says that him sounding groggy, stating he was tired, wanting to get off the phone was weird. Fast forward an entire 40 minutes, 12:15 a.m. We have now gone over to May 18th, 2017, the day that Chris Cornell's life would inevitably end. Kirsten, who's laying on his bed watching TV, gets a phone call from Vicky, what's her maiden name? He says in the police report that she sounded very angry. And get this, she was angry because Chris told her he was tired and he didn't want to talk on the phone. He wanted to go to bed. She kept calling him and he would not answer his phone. This made her very angry. Now, she reminds me of the kind of person who's a bit selfish, who doesn't care about other people's feelings. She wants what she wants. I don't care if you're tired. I don't care if you're traveling. I don't care if you just played a 2-hour show. I want to talk. It's midnight. Why wouldn't you want to have an hour-long conversation? Kirsten, who has a room key, goes to Chris's suite, but he discovers that the latch has been locked by Chris on the inside, so he can't get in. He calls for hotel security. They deny him access because his name is not registered to the room. I was really trying to save all the speculation for the end, but I gotta say this right now. This is fucking Chris Cornell. Everybody who works in that hotel knows who Chris Cornell is. Even if they're not a fan of Soundgarden, they are aware that they have a celebrity staying there. I used to bartend when I was a young, in shape, handsome guy I used to bartend these fancy banquets for fraternities, sororities, celebrities when they would come into town to speak at Ohio University. Hillary Clinton being among them. That dude from Married with Children who played football for OU, and never mind. Anyway, I worked at this fancy hotel, the OUN and Conference Center. It's the same one that Tom Grant stayed in when he came to Ohio to meet me and talk to me. Whenever we had a special guest, meaning a celebrity, even if it was like a B-list celebrity, everybody was warned that their jobs were on the line. Whatever they need, you get it as quickly as you can get it. Any of their family, any of their friends, anyone associated with them, they are top priority every fucking time. We had to actually purchase silverware, meaning pure silverware, eating utensils for Hillary Clinton, because that's all she would eat from. She would not eat from regular utensils. And the hotel did not have pure silverware, so we had to go buy it. That's the kind of shit that they will do for celebrities, because you want other celebrities to come to your hotel. You want your hotel to have a good reputation, right? Not to mention that Vicky What's-Her-Face micromanaged Chris's entire life, his finances, his tours, his dates, his hotel. Like, she was like, just like claws dug into him, micromanaging every minute of his life. Do you know how easy it would have been for her to call and say, let this guy in his room? Do you know how easy it would have been for Martin himself to get in that room if he really wanted to? Putting myself in that situation as a hotel staff member, whether I'm maintenance, security, a bartender, I put sheets on beds, whatever I do, if somebody like that would have said, Chris Cornell's in this room and I need in this room, I would have kicked the fucking door in myself. Number one, because it's Chris Cornell. Number two, because I would have got fired if I didn't and something terrible happened, which it did. So for them to say, oh, we couldn't get in the room, bit sketchy. Now moving forward, 12:15 a.m., he's denied access to the room. The latch is locked. What you're looking at is the only reason, the entire reason that it is believed that Chris Cornell did in fact take his own life was this picture you're looking at. The latch was locked. It had to be kicked in from the outside. And my God, I can't believe this is the kind of latch that's at the MGM Grand Hotel. We had better latches than this at the OUN and Conference Center. I could push this damn thing open and break it. Let me read this paragraph for you. Vicky Cornell directs him, Martin Kirsten, the bodyguard, to kick it open. Kirsten does and enters Chris's suite, now encountering a locked bedroom. He calls the hotel operator and is again refused security assistance to access the locked door. He said, I told them I'm going to damage the hotel room and that they need to send security. Call 911, again, right after 12:15 a.m., call 911, call an ambulance. The bodyguard then kicks the bedroom door 6 to 7 times before it somehow pops open. I went inside, and this is from the police report. I went inside and the bathroom door was partially open. I could see his feet. Do you remember the remote? There's no official police statements about any hotel staff who ever brought a remote. Had they brought the remote, wouldn't they have been the last person to see Chris Cornell alive? There's no mention of it, ever. 40 minutes have passed since he requested it. He requested it at 11:30. It's after 12:15 a.m., and Kirsten's banging down the door, still no remote. Or if someone did bring a remote, was the door locked and they just couldn't get in? Did they see something? Did they see someone entering or leaving that told them, just leave it with me? And then that person set the remote aside, never to be discussed again. Very strange that a hotel like this would not cater to a very, very minor request from a celebrity. Now, as we know, Kirsten finds Cornell on the floor, bleeding, with an exercise band around his neck. Initially, I didn't realize that Chris was on the floor. They said he hung himself. I always imagined that he found him actually hanging from the exercise band. The exercise band is not broken, and from the pictures that I could see, of course, I'm not the police, I'm not the Detroit police, I wasn't there, so I couldn't see everything. The pictures that they have shared in that room, there do seem to be some, shower pipes coming out of the wall, but they do not appear broken either. So if Chris hung himself with the exercise band, the only way he could come down to the floor would be A, the exercise band snaps, which it's not broken, or B, whatever it was tied to snapped or broke. But there's no evidence, there's no picture that shows anything broken other than the latch on the inside of the door. Wouldn't they take a picture of that to show to the public, to show to his fans, this is where he did it, and the reason he was on the floor was it broke? Am I wrong about this? Correct me if I'm wrong. I could not find a picture that would explain why Chris Cornell was on the floor. We move to our next clue, and this one really got me, and I know it's going to irk you too. Now remember, Martin Kirsten says that he told the hotel to call 911 right after 12:15 a.m. We move all the way down to 12:56 a.m., May 18th. A hotel medic arrives on the scene, unties the exercise band, and starts CPR on Cornell, who is not breathing. A 911 call is placed. A guest was attempting to hang himself, the operator is told.
What is the address of the emergency?
1777 3rd Street, the MGM Casino. I have a non-responsive guest in the hotel. It's going to be a 50-year-old male inside of room 1136.
He's not breathing.
46 minutes after Kirsten discovers Chris Cornell, he knows there's something wrong. He's busted through the first door. He sees his feet. He claims that he told the hotel to call 911. No one calls 911 for 46 minutes. I don't feel as though I have to say it again, but I will. I worked at a fancy hotel. If someone says call 911, a guest is in trouble, you're doing it immediately. Everyone has cell phones. It's 2017, not 1997. Furthermore, why didn't Kirsten make the damn phone call himself? Why didn't Vicky make the phone call who's on the phone with Kirsten? 46 minutes this man lays on the floor with an exercise band around his neck. Did you notice that the hotel responder, the medic on site, does not arrive for 46 minutes? Why didn't that hotel medic, who is right there on site in case of emergencies like this because they have fancy guests, why wasn't he there at like 12:20, 12:27? Why didn't Kirsten request this person? Why are they there 46 minutes later and they're the ones to make the phone call? On top of this, the on-site medic says that they removed the exercise band from Chris's neck. Kirsten only supposedly loosened it. If you see your friend, your boss, your confidant, a guy that you are in charge of their life, you are there to protect their life with an exercise band around their neck, you're going to rip that thing off. You're going to do whatever you can. You're going to be freaking out saying, this is my friend, this can't be happening, I'm going to save you. All he did was just barely loosen it. The on-site medic who responded 46 minutes later is the one that actually unraveled it from his neck. Is this not suspicious? If you found your friend, your loved one, the way he found Chris, would you just leave that exercise band around the neck and just kind of loosen it a little? Hell no. You wouldn't even like the sight of it. You would want to get rid of it. You'd want to throw it aside. May I add that 46 minutes is plenty of time for two people to get in that room, one of them lock it from the inside and the other kick it in. That tiny little pussy latch, that's really the only thing that suggests this guy did it himself, was the fact that the door was locked from the inside. Man, that could be so simple to stage. And again, what happened to that goddamn remote? I want to talk to the person who's responsible for catering to a guest's needs to say, why didn't you take Chris Cornell his Apple TV remote? Or did you? And did you see something? Moving forward, there's been a lot said about the broken bones, the bilateral fractures up and down the rib cage of Chris Cornell. 1 a.m. More first responders arrive, including Detroit police and EMS personnel, and resuscitation efforts continue. 1:30 a.m. Cornell is pronounced dead by a doctor on the scene. One of the fathers of a boy on my baseball team, I coached my son's 10-year-old baseball team, one of his teammates' fathers is a medic. And I asked him about this, and he said that it's very possible that the resuscitation efforts are what caused all those bilateral fractures. I used to think, man, did somebody beat Chris up and strangle him? What was going on here? But it is very possible that if they were doing resuscitation for that long of a period of time, from 12:56 all all the way to 1:30 a.m. and they were doing it vigorously, they could have broken all those ribs. For those of you who follow my channel and have watched the Cobain series, you're about to have flashbacks. You're about to have deja vu. You see here at 1:40 a.m., additional Detroit police authorities are alerted, including homicide investigators, and officers on hand secure the scene until they arrive. This is spectacular. This is what they're supposed to do, call homicide investigators, because every death scene is a death investigation. It's not a homicide investigation. It's not a suicide investigation. It's not an accident investigation. It is a death investigation until the autopsy is done, until the toxicology report comes back, until all evidence is processed, forensics, everything. But look what happens. 55 minutes later, 2:35 a.m., suicide. They say that it's a death scene investigation. They say that they called in homicide detectives, but look what they wrote on the incident report. Suicide, 2:35 a.m. 1:39 p.m. the same day. Remember, we're in May 18th now. We're talking about 11 and a half hours later, 12 hours later. The Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office releases a statement saying it has completed an autopsy and ruled Cornell's suicide by hanging. News of his death spurs headlines around the world. Now, I don't work in modern pathology. I'm not a forensic scientist. I'm not a pathologist. This might be a question for Dr. Cyril Wecht when we talk to him again on the channel. And I would love to talk to him about Chris Cornell's death, as well as Jimi Hendrix. Is that a long enough period of time for the toxicology report to come back? We have a similar situation. What if the toxicology report comes back a few days later or a week later or whatever, and Chris Cornell has an insane amount of opiates in his system, and then they're like, oh crap, he couldn't have done this to himself. He would already be unconscious. They're not even waiting. They're not investigating. They're just like, yep, looks like it, so must be it. Why does this happen consistently with rock stars? Well, you know, I've put some thought into this and I realized it doesn't just happen consistently with rock stars. It happens consistently with everybody. These people cut corners. They don't want to do the paperwork. They want to go home to wifey and kids. They don't care about this guy. Oh, well, he lived a great life. He was rich and famous. I don't care about him. I'm just going to cut corners, say he did it himself, and not care about what may be discovered later on the toxicology report. Now, the reason I said I don't work in this field is, for all I know, a toxicology report these days could be done in 10 minutes. I don't know, but I'm assuming they would take some time. Don't you have to send that away to a lab? And then they measure what is what, send you the results back? The Wayne County in Detroit, the medical examiner's office, would go on to claim that they did what they were supposed to do, and then they announced it as a suicide by hanging. But as you saw on the police incident report from that early morning hour, they had already ruled it that. Sickening, man. This could happen to you. It could happen to me. Anyone we love. Someone could frame their death as if they took their own life, and then you never know whether your loved one really did it themselves or not, because these people want to cut corners and not do paperwork and not follow through with their jobs. The only evidence that I see that suggests he did it himself is that stupid little tiny latch being kicked in, which any two people could have done after they already killed him. Two people could have been involved in that. You never know. Chris's wife, as we've talked about her in a live chat before. I think I even had another video long time ago that I talked about it. She's had some very, very peculiar behavior since Chris's death, including changing her name to something else. And I'm pretty sure if she hasn't already remarried, she's engaged. She doesn't want to give any of Chris's money to his first daughter. She had Susan Silver cut out of the will. She sued Soundgarden. She's tried to take control of Soundgarden. Then she condescendingly offered Soundgarden $12 million to buy them out, so she herself could own Soundgarden. A woman who wasn't even there when they got famous and made all this great music. She wasn't even there. It was Susan Silver. Susan Silver was the brains behind Soundgarden. She was the manager. She was the one with the connections. Susan and Lily, the first daughter, get totally pushed aside. Vicky takes control of everything, and now she's trying to take Soundgarden's music away from them, offering them $12 million? That is just ludicrous. And they said, and I loved their response to Vicky, they said, it's not even about the money. This is our life's work. This is our art. This is our creation. It's like our baby. You can't buy our baby from us. Well, Vicky thinks she can. I'm sorry, Vicky, what's her maiden name, is holding them hostage, holding Chris's vocal master tapes hostage to try to get more money out of them. Does this sound like a grieving widow? She's already got more than any of us could imagine. She got to travel the world. She had this beautiful life. She has great kids from Chris, and she just wants more and more and more. Greed. Who does this remind you of? Well, it's probably no surprise to you that Vicky is friends with Courtney Love. Vicky's the one who invited Courtney Love to Chris Cornell's funeral service. You see the footage of Courtney Love smoking? I don't care if it was a vape. It's still disrespectful. Yeah, I chew tobacco in my videos because this is my damn recording studio. If I was in somebody else's recording studio, I'd leave the chewing tobacco at home. If I went to someone's funeral, I would definitely leave the tobacco at home. Like, how freaking disrespectful is Courtney Love, man? And now she's teamed up with Vicky. All right. Few questions for you folks, for you viewers, if you've made it this far. How many of you knew originally that Chris Cornell was found by his bodyguard on the ground? I didn't. That is why I wanted to take a second look at this case. For some reason, I just always imagined they found him suspended in the air. And then when you couple that with the 46-minute gap where Martin himself does not call 911, Vicky doesn't call anybody. He claims he told the hotel to do it, but they didn't either. It's not until the medic arrives that anybody even thinks about that. The fact that a 46-minute gap is plenty of time for two people, one to go in the room and do the deed, the other to kick a simple tiny little latch in. The fact that the bodyguard didn't get rid of the elastic band. The fact, and correct me if I'm wrong, again, I've seen no photos that would suggest, oh, there's where he did it and you see that thing broke. None of that. All of these things together, including Vicky's behavior, it just doesn't add up. It just feels funny. I know a lot of you don't like Howard Stern. He's like dark beer. It's an acquired taste. But I think Howard Stern gets a bad rap. I think underneath all that machoism and bravado and all the sexist remarks, he's actually a pretty decent guy that just kind of does those things for shock value, for ratings. And I think he really does care about certain guests that come on his show. Chris was one of them. You know, Howard said, I can't believe he did it to himself. The last time I talked to him, he was so vibrant. He was so alive. He was, I'd like to have your opinion as well. I am going to be below reading comments. Do me a favor. If you liked the video, leave it a like. If you think your friend would like it, share it. And if you've watched more than one video and you think you might watch another one, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Bye-bye.